Hello YouTube, this is Satsu 5 and I got another knife review for you today. This is the Kabar Johnson Eventual Blades Potbelly. And this is the Potbelly knife, just to specify. And before I get started on the review of the knife, I want to get the stats out of the way and get those out of the way before I give you my opinion. First off, the overall length is 12 5/8 inches long, and it's made from a 1/4 inch thick of 1095 Crovan steel, and its blade length is 7 1/8 inches. And just to get the MSRP out of the way, it's going to MSRP around $134.45. Again, you're not really expected to pay that much. You can find it cheaper online, but this was a very interesting knife to me. When I first saw it, there were several things that I was interested in. I wanted to test this knife out. I also was thinking about replacing my old hunting knife with this. And there were some concerns I had about this knife. But after getting it, I was able to test it. And one of the first things I did with this knife was I chopped with it. I've heard many good reports on its chopping ability, and so I wanted to test that out, and I chopped, various woods, hardwood, softwood, and one thing I noticed when chopping, and which I kind of expected, is when I first started chopping, I would hold it in a grip like this, straddling the point right here with my middle and ring finger. And that's how I started chopping. And as I continued chopping, the handle would move up on me until the point where I'm holding it by the bottom right here, at which case I'd have to readjust my grip and continue chopping. I kind of suspected this because of a remark the designer of this knife made in one of his interviews. He highly recommended and stressed that this knife needed a lanyard when performing chopping tasks. Now, my own opinion is, and the reason why I didn't test it with a lanyard, is that a knife shouldn't need a lanyard. It should be a convenience, not a necessity. So that is to me, a design flaw in the handle itself. Something else that I've noticed when I got the knife is that the handle is a hard plastic that's stippled. It's much like the same plastic used in the Beckel line of knives, except theirs doesn't have any texturing whatsoever. This texturing provides you with some traction, but it is still, not sufficient traction enough for me for keeping the knife from slinging out of my hands while chopping. I want to say it's alright texturing. It didn't rub my skin raw. Again, anytime I test a knife out, I usually test it with my bare hands as opposed to gloves, because I want to be consistent with all my knife testing, and I want to know, does this knife rub your skin raw when using it without gloves? I want to learn and pick up on those facts. So I didn't test it with a lanyard or gloves. It didn't rub my skin raw. It did move up in my hand, and it does provide a good bit of shock to the hand when you're chopping with this. And far as a go-to chopping knife, a knife that I'd pick up to clear land, this would not be my first choice at all. Although it does pretty decent at chopping small limbs and small trees. I wouldn't chop anything any bigger than this with this knife, and I do not know where my ruler is, or I'd kind of give you a measurement on that. But yeah, I wouldn't chop anything a whole lot bigger than that. I'd say that's about 2.5, maybe 3 inches across. Because it's just not a good it's not a machete. It's more like a pointed cleaver, if I had to describe it as anything. Now, I mentioned that I was thinking about replacing my hunting knife with this, and as of right now, it's still up in the air which knife I'm going to use as my hunting knife. This is going to sound a little gruesome, but in my state, where I live in Texas, you have to provide proof of sex of the deer if you want to take your meat to a meat market and get it processed. You either have to bring the whole entire deer up there, and then they quarter it up and stuff, or if you want to bring your cooler and you want to quarter it up yourself but have them grind it into sausage or cut it into steaks, you have to remove the head and present the head to the meat market so they have proof of sex. Because when Texas talks about the sex of a deer, they don't actually mean the sex of the deer, they are talking about if it has antlers or not. And some does are known to have antlers, and some bucks do not have antlers. You know, so it's not so much as about sex, it's more about if it's antler or antlerless, and that's how it's divided or categorized in Texas. So out in the field, I skinned and quartered my deer with this knife, and I needed the head. So I decided I was going to decapitate the head with this knife. It took me about 3 to 4 chops, which is pretty good. You know, bone is a pretty hard material, and I was able to get through the deal. And after examining the blade, I noticed I had some chips in the blade, which to me was to be expected. I was doing this, 1, because I needed the head, and 2, to test out this knife. But the chips were so small that they were easily ground out, and it was easily repaired by my brother, which I would like to thank him for doing a good job of repairing this knife. So, you know, if you have to do that, chop through bone, expect some minor chipping, but it's going to be pretty easy to repair. Now, along with hunting, any fixed blade knife, you're going to need a sheath for it. This is the sheath right here. The sheath was also very interesting to me because it has this horseshoe-like shape, and it has a stuff sack in it. And that was one of the things I liked about the whole knife setup, was because of this stuff sack. I was thinking to myself, well, I can use it as my hunting knife, I can throw a compass in there, I can throw some file starting material, you know, maybe some candy or gum or something. And that's kind of what drew me to this knife setup. And so after putting the knife in the sheath and threading it around my belt, I walked to my deer stand, and when I sat down, it was kind of uncomfortable to sit down in a chair with it. It was kind of digging into me. So I ended up taking the sheath off my belt and putting the knife in the sheath in my backpack. And that's how I carried this, was in my backpack. And it also comes with a companion knife, which I'm not going to talk about because to me it's not really that important. It comes with this cordage, which kind of surprised me. They give you several feet of this cordage, and it's not really paracord, it's more like shoestring material. So I guess if you need to lace up your boots out in the field, you got some high-vis colors for that. But another thing that a drawback about this sheath is it has these double loops. You snap this first loop, and the knife is coming pretty close to cutting itself out of the sheath, and it moves around. It doesn't retain that well. The only necessary loop that comes with this knife is this top one, and you can see if I can snap it across the in frame of the camera. Okay, you can see after snapping that top one, it doesn't move nearly as much. You really don't need this bottom snap. It's also MOLLE compatible. I wouldn't recommend this as a tactical knife. So to me, mounting this on a chest or whatever is not an option, but you can mount it on a backpack that has MOLLE capabilities. Overall, I'm going to say my overall impression of the knife is disappointment. And it's not because it's a bad chopper. It's not because it doesn't hold an edge. It does everything a knife should do, or a knife of this size should do. It skins deal. It was able to decapitate my deal, and it's a decent chopper considering the blade geometry, steel, and heft of the blade. But I was just really disappointed in the ergonomics and a little bit with the sheath. So that's it. That's the Kabar Potbelly. To me, it was a real red flag when the designer of the knife said that you need to run this knife with a lanyard. I think I'm repeating myself, but to me, a lanyard is a convenience, not a necessity. To me, you should be able to design a knife around a person's hand where you do not need a lanyard. And it shouldn't be a necessity in order to use that blade. So that is my thoughts on the Kabar Potbelly. As far as a hunting knife, I'm still kind of up in the air about it. You know, it did what I wanted it to do, but overall, if I had to rate it on a number scale of 1 to 10, it'd probably be between, well, it would have to be, I think around a 4 out of 10, maybe a 4.5. I'm Satsu5. I hope you enjoyed this review. I'm a Satsu5, and I'm out.